and go.
Morning everyone, welcome to today's webinar. Today we're discussing creating communications around your Community Environment Fund project. So first of all, congratulations on being chosen to receive funding. We had quite a lot of applications this year, so you can consider yourself a good project if we funded you. So just to introduce myself, if you've not already met me through the dashboard one-to-ones, my name's Lewis Evans and I'm the project manager for the Community Environment Fund this year. So can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so just going to quickly talk through what we're doing today. So yes, the aim of this guide is to give you guidance and advice on how to maximise communications tools and channels to promote your project, the funding and your group within the community and beyond. So this guide is designed to help different size groups working on different projects. It may not all be relevant or practical to you if you've got some experience in this field. It might not be relevant, but hopefully you'll take something still from this presentation. And yeah, please feel free to decide which elements will work best for your initiative. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach at all. And the topics we're going to look at today are press releases, top tips for social media and photography. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Claire, who works in the comms team at the community at the CA. And can I have next slide, please? And over to you, Claire.
Morning everyone, or afternoon it is now, isn't it? It's 2 minutes past 12. It's lovely to see you all this afternoon and thank you for joining us to run through some ideas which will help you promote your Community Environment Fund projects. So I'll try not to teach me granny to suck eggs too much this afternoon. We just wanted to gather you together to be able to run through some ideas of what you can do to promote your own project. So as Lewis said, we're going to have a look at press releases, social media and photography and how you can use these to promote your various projects, which are wide and varied. And I'm sure a lot of you will have already be using social media and you may have done a press release or two in the past. So if we're reiterating some stuff, then hopefully you can get some further information from it. So we're going to start with press releases, and the slide here is sort of, we'll provide you with all of this afterwards so that you've got something to refer to, and this is also being recorded so you can always watch it back if you need to as well. The aim of a press release is to get attention to your project, and there may be certain times within your project that you might want to highlight something in particular to gain publicity or awareness about what you're doing. One of the most important things is telling the story. So in order to get news journalists interested, whether that would be in the newspaper or on the radio, or it might be a website for your area even, it's important to tell the story around what you're doing. So when you're putting a press release together, we suggest that you try to think of what we call a hook for your story. So that's something, if you imagine, to catch their interest, and something that might persuade them that it might be something of interest for them to cover. So if you can think of something exciting that's happening, it might be that you're having a visit from someone, it might be that you're opening a particular area, or that you're at a point in your project that where something exciting is happening for the first time. All of those things are examples of good hooks to use. So then when you want to write your press release, and the next slide will go into a bit more detail on this, but it's important that you include all the information that you can and keep it short and concise. So we sort of try and think of maybe 1 to 2 pages of A4, so it's not going into reams of information, because they simply just won't read it, to be honest with you. You need to sort of try and get everything in as succinctly as possible. And don't forget to put things like your contact details on, so that they can get in touch with you if they want to do interviews or if they want to clarify any information. The other important thing is to pick who to send your press release to, and this could, you could go on forever with this one. But basically, if you're looking for email addresses, the easiest way to find them is to look at the contact us areas on sections of their websites, or Google. So for example, if you were looking at the Liverpool Echo, for example, you might sort of Google environment, or you might Google green projects or something, and see who has written about those subjects in the past. And then you should be able to find the journalist's name from that, and consequently their email address. So that's a sort of way of helping you choose who to send your release to and where to find them. Can I have the next slide, please? So when you're creating your content for your press release, there's a few things that are important to include. And one of the easiest ways to remember this, and this is something that they cover when they're training journalists, and there's a few of us in our team will know this one, is the 5 W's, the who, what, where, why, and when. So if you can answer all of those questions within your press release, then you're well on the way to creating a good story for them. So they'll want to know, you know, what you're called, where you're based, what your group does, how much funding that you receive from the Community Environment Fund. What is the Community Environment Fund? And we can always help you with extra details. You can always email the project team, and if there's anything that comms need to help with from that perspective, then they'll get in touch with us, and we can give that information. But the fund is from the Metro Mayor and the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority. So it's always good to give them a mention, because not only is it clarifying where the fund is coming from, but it's showing that, you know, you've been a successful recipient within this fund, which we separately, as part of the Combined Authority, will have been doing our own publicity on. So they'll know that you're part of a much bigger scheme. What you're doing with the money that you've received and what's the project aim is a really important one. The list of projects for this year is really exciting. There's loads of lovely projects, and I'm sure that some of you will have seen some of the communications work that we did last year when we had projects like the bees in Toxteth, and we had the wildflowers up in Bootle, and we also had the school farm over on the Wirral as well, which all achieved coverage on the television on Granada and on evening news programmes. So you can always have a Google of what has been done last year to get ideas for what you could do this year. So a lot of the time when you're talking about your project, it's the kind of human interest angle, if you like, that you're looking for, how it's benefiting your community and how people are involved in that project and what they're doing as part of that. If you're looking for anything in particular, so it might be that you're looking for volunteers for your project, or you might be looking for schools to get involved, or there's a number of different things that you might be looking for, and that's important to include what you're asking for or what the purpose of the release is about. When it's going to be complete, so you're sort of talking about a specific time period and then how it will benefit the community. And as I say, the human interest angle ties in very well with the sort of storytelling aspect of a press release, and I think these are always the more successful press releases that go out to the media. Photos are crucial, so always try and get as many pictures of your project as you can, particularly if it's one that is a progressive story. So for example, if it's if it's a planting type of project where you might be starting with something that's totally bare and transforming it into something else, it's lovely to get as many photos as possible because that's part of the storytelling process. And another thing that's quite important to include is a quote from, and you can put a couple of quotes in, just don't put too many, from a member of your group or somebody that's involved in your project, even to sort of say something along the lines of, oh, this money's been fantastic because we're doing this, this and this. Or it could be somebody that's involved in your group who'll say, this has meant I've been coming here every week to do this, this, this. I've made loads of new friends. It could be anything along those lines, really. But so long as you're answering that who, what, where, why and when, then you pretty much got everything covered in there. Can I have the next slide, please? So what we've done here is given you a couple of little templates to get you started. So we've got a pre-project template, and then the next slide is going to be is a post-project template. And this doesn't mean that you only have to do them at the beginning and the end. You can do a press release at any time you've got something exciting to shout about, really. But we thought that when you receive the slides after the webinar, this might be handy for you to sort of give you a starting point of what you might need to include. And it gives you a little bit of background about the fund as a whole. So it's a £500,000 fund which has been distributed across the city region, and all of the community groups had to bid for a chunk of that fund, if you like, to be able to carry out these projects. And a lot of it ties into our wider green and environmental work across the CA. So the fact that, you know, we want to be net carbon zero, I always get it the wrong way around, by 2030, I think it is. Which it's 10 years ahead of the national target. And so you can find that information on our website if you were wanting to include any of that extra stuff. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is another suggestion for you post-project. So it's kind of giving a bit of detail about what you're doing, when you started it, you know, who brought it to life, and some details about significant points of interest. Facts and figures are always good, but don't let the facts, in my opinion, I would say, don't let the facts and figures overtake the kind of human interest part of it, because when it comes to the Community Environment Fund projects, it's mostly the people and the work that you're doing that makes them so interesting to media. So we've also got there, you know, social media details, and you've got the website link there to the Community Environment Fund page on the website. And don't forget your contact details, because quite often you might find that there may be a local reporter, or there may be, you know, smaller websites in your area that look after particular neighbourhoods and things, who may be interested in this sort of story. And they'll want a bit more detail from you, or they might want more photographs, or so don't forget to put those contact details on there for people. Okay, next slide, please. So sending out your press release. The easiest way to send a press release out is by email. And I'm old enough to remember the times where we used to have to print them off and put them in envelopes and post them out. But email is the general way that we will send stuff out these days. And the subject line, you've got to remember now, one of the important points is that they will get hundreds of press releases every day. So that's whether it's the Echo or Radio Merseyside or Granada, or it doesn't really matter. They'll get loads and loads and loads of press releases. So the point of what you're trying to do is make yours stand out from the crowd a little bit. So I would suggest putting something interesting in the subject line. So mentioning the Community Environment Fund and a possible story around it for them, which lets the media know, or the journalist that's opening the email, that there might be something of interest for them to cover, and they're always looking for things to cover. So that's always a positive thing. So the types of people that you'll want to be sending it out to are local community newspapers and websites. They're online, they're in print, and again, it might take a little bit of research for you to find out what's happening in your area. Any relevant news outlets that you use or you read or you have in your area. So, for example, if you're in Wirral, the Wirral Globe is the local newspaper. It would certainly be worth sending it to them. They're easier to find because you can just Google newspapers in my area, or local radio, for example, is even easier because they cover large chunks of the city region. But good not to forget those online sort of community blogs and smaller websites that might be covering your areas. It's also worth sort of thinking about other community groups and sort of getting them to share your news on your behalf. They may have newsletters and things like that. So it's always worth considering, thinking outside the box a little bit, I suppose, and considering other areas rather than just your mainstream media that you could be sending your news to. News outlets that cover the whole of the city region. So you've got examples like the Guide Liverpool and In Your Area. When you go onto those websites, it'll give you a good idea of where they cover and how you can contact them. But basically, it's anyone who you think would be interested in receiving news about your project. The fact that you're part of a much bigger city region wide project, and you're one of, I think it's 38 projects this year who've been sort of chosen to for the Community Environment Fund funding, then that will help when you're putting stuff together. And you can also add your project details and promote volunteer days or engagement activities on websites like Semble as well. Next slide, please. So this is the difficult bit. Sometimes it is hard to get journalists to cover stories in the news. We used to have a saying when I worked in radio that if you think about if something big happens, then all bets are off. They're not, even if they've agreed to cover your story, then it might not happen. So you've always got to try and be a little bit different, a little bit unique, and try and give them something of interest. There are many reasons why they may not be up for covering what you're doing at the moment. It could be that they're only covering stories on a specific topic. It could be that environmental stories and green projects and the type of work that we're doing here is a hot topic at the minute. And that's what we found in this last year, is that it's been with COP26 happening at the end of last year and things like that. It is a really interesting thing at the moment. So we've got that on our side, shall we say. So in addition, though, to dealing with media and sending it out to local websites and stuff, a really important thing to do, I think, is to take advantage of social media channels where basically you've got the control of what news you're putting out across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. They're all free, they're easy to use, and you're able to then give yourself the exposure and promotion. You're not relying on somebody else to do it for you. Next slide, please. So we'll have a look at social media now and why it's so important. And everybody is pretty much knows what social media is, what the mediums are. I'm sure a lot of you use Twitter, Facebook, Instagram already. You may have pages that you've created for your community organisations. It might just be one person in your organisation that looks after the whole thing. I'm sure it's wide and varied. But if we give you an idea about the types of things that we do and what we could suggest that you might want to do, then it will just help promote your various projects. So social media is basically an online tool for publishing, sharing and discussing information, because you have your comments there, you've got your likes there, and there's lots of different platforms that are available. But the main ones that we look at are Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. We use LinkedIn as well. But LinkedIn is very much more a kind of business to business sort of feel about it. So it may be applicable to you if you're already an organisation that's already set up. You might deal with other partners. You might be quite a big organisation, in which case you may well want to include LinkedIn in your sort of suite of platforms that you'd be promoting yourself on. So within social media, you're able to promote your project, the funding that you've had, the groups that you're working with quickly and effectively to a large audience. You can build your reputation and get your organisation brand known. It's a great way to share updates on your project and share information about your project. Community-wise, it's a really good way of staying in touch and engaging with people that you might want to be involved in your project. You can reach an audience that has similar interests, and then you're able to collaborate, perhaps recruit and retain members, or get people that you want to reach as part of the project further involved, and you can let people know what's happening in your area as well. Next slide, please. So good things to include: use photos and videos where you can, and obviously because so many of us now have smartphones, this is easier than ever. You can take photos or do a quick video. No one has to be talking in it. You don't have to have a presenter on there. You can film people at work, and if you're really clever, you could do little reels or TikToks, or there's plenty out there that you can be looking at. But I think one of the main things is to make it engaging. Write interesting posts, have a bit of personality about it for your organisation. Keep it conversational. Imagine that it's a friend in the pub or a friend at a group that you attend that you're telling about your project. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be stiff or kind of, you can just be informal and chatty. Stories are always good. They're informal updates where you can do a series of posts separate from your main updates, and it gives people a good insight and it gives them information about your organisation, and it's a good way of uploading quick videos and photos without you having to think of what to write with it. I'm sure everybody, especially over the next few months coming up, will see people doing this on their holidays this year. So think about it in that sort of vein, as being a sort of informal and chatty way of keeping in touch with people, and I don't think you'll go far wrong with that. Next slide, please. So setting up accounts, we've included a little bit of detail here just in case anybody hasn't done this before, and the things that are sort of important to include. An appropriate name is always good, so you can be found easily and it's relevant to your group. Big long names don't always work, so if there's a shortened version of your group name or your official group name, sometimes that helps. Accounts can all be made from the homepage of whichever platform it is. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. With Facebook, it's slightly different because your page needs to be connected to a personal account, and that's just how they're set up. So just be a bit wary of that. You then have to give other people access to it in order to run the page. Your profile picture is always a good one. If you have a logo, then that's always an easy one to use to represent the group, and it's identifiable. So if people are searching for you, they're looking for your logo. It's much harder if you're looking for a person when you're searching for a page on Facebook. And then in your bio, which is part of your page, your biography, that's where you put all the information about your group, so that people can click on there and immediately know what your group's about, what the account's going to be talking about. And there's a couple of little pictures here on the slide which you'll see for the Liverpool City region Twitter page, for example. We've got our logo and then a couple of sentences about what we do at the CA. Next slide, please. So what we thought might be handy would be to give you a little bit of an overview of Twitter, Instagram and Facebook and the kind of differences between them. So with Twitter, you are limited on characters. So this is where you're always short and snappy. You've got to be really concise and in your posts. With Instagram and Facebook, you don't have a word limit, so you can put more detail in the posts that may be going with your photographs or your videos. But with Twitter, you do need to be really short and snappy, although you can always link to other information. You can post videos, photos and text rather. And then you can do things like retweeting other posts that you like to share with your followers. We'll go on to hashtags a little bit further on to show you how they can help you and help us promote you as well. And they're on another important aspect of it. And then with Instagram and Facebook, Facebook's probably the most popular, although that's arguable with Twitter. It depends on which one you like best. We often you're either a Twitter or a Facebook person. I'm a Facebook person. Most people do have a Facebook account. You can share your posts, your videos, your photos with followers. You don't necessarily have to be friends with them when it's a page. They can just follow your page. You can do this on a computer as well. You don't need to download the app onto your phone. People can discuss posts. You can tag people in the same way as you can with Twitter, and you can write longer posts, as we've just said. Now, Instagram is slightly different. It's more popular with younger people. So I suppose depending on who your project is targeted at, depends on which one of these channels you might find best for promoting your project. Instagram is photo based, so everything is around the photograph. So rather than Twitter or Facebook, where you'll have a few lines of sort of text first to sort of set up the picture, if you like, with Instagram, the photograph leads the post, if you like. You do need an app for Instagram, and it's much more visual. So if you have a project that is going to be have a lot of visual updates, then this would be the one for you. And you can share stories on there to update as well. So I think that Twitter and Facebook are probably a lot more generalized with age groups and that sort of thing. Instagram is a slightly younger audience, and it's led by the picture rather than the content or the words themselves. Okay, next slide, please. So what are hashtags? Well, we ask you to sort of include the hashtag green LCR in some of the posts that you're doing on all of the posts that you do on social media. That enables us, what hashtag generally does is that it pulls all of those posts together. So if you would search for, let's use green LCR as the example, it will show you all of the posts where that's been mentioned. So across all of the different projects, if we're in the office in the Combined Authority and we want to see which community groups involved in the Community Environment Fund have been posted on social media, we can use that hashtag to see all of your posts, and that enables us to share them as well and to retweet them and to share them with our audience for the entire Combined Authority. So the hashtags are really important. This green LCR one is the one that we ask you to include, but that doesn't sort of stop you from having your own hashtags as well. So the main point of them is that it allows us to collate them all together. And then if it's used a lot, it could start to trend. And trend basically means, and you will have seen this, where it'll be, sometimes you get it with celebrities a lot of the time, or where you'll see a hashtag that's trending, and it's because there's so many posts on that particular subject. So that's the aim of the game, folks. We need to be trending the Community Environment Fund. So we've given some examples there of other hashtags that you could perhaps use, whether it's the area that you live in or the name of your project, and you can include more than one hashtag in a post as well. It can go within the main sentence, or it can go at the end of your post. Using a popular hashtag will help build exposure because you're reaching a wider audience, and it also allows us to find your various posts from across your projects and enable us to share them on your behalf as well. Next slide, please. So here's an example of a good social media post. So this is one where we've got good use of imagery, we've got good use of photos. It's clear, it's bright, it's relevant, it's got informative text. It's showing our personality. We've got people tagged in there, we've got hashtags in there, and it's nice and concise and succinct. So here we've sort of said we've been able to make a real difference in our community since the launch of our Planting Trees project. The Community Environment Fund from @Liverpool City Region, that's us, @Metro Mayor Steve, that's the Metro Mayor's Twitter handle, has helped us create more open green space. We've got a few little emojis in there to make it a bit more exciting, and a couple of hashtags which will help promote it. So this is a good one to include in the slides, I think, because it gives you something to sort of go off if you're new to putting this sort of thing together. So that's there for you to be able to refer to. Next slide, please. So in summary for social media then, use relevant focused images about your project. We'll talk a little bit about photography in a second. If you have a mixture of hashtags and tagging accounts, it's really easy to search for people if you don't know their Twitter handle or their Facebook name. If you go into the search and you put their name in, that's where you're looking for the logo or the person that you're wanting to tag in the account. So it's good to tag people in there that you are wanting to reach, because in a lot of cases they'll get a notification that they're mentioned in the particular post. If you're enthusiastic, you're using conversational words and tone, you've got a few emojis in there which help express personality, and then you won't be going far wrong. And each post is a chance for you to promote your project and the work that you're doing, which is obviously really important to your communities as well. Next slide, please. So Hootsuite, this is a good one to mention if you work within, say, a busy organisation, or perhaps you work full-time all week and this is something that you do as a hobby, and so you know it's not your main day job, if you like. We use Hootsuite within the Combined Authority to schedule some posts. So if something is going out late at night or really early in the morning, or you can schedule posts in Hootsuite so that you don't always have to be doing them live. So it allows you to sort of do a couple of days in advance, a full week in advance, to make sure that people are always hearing about your project, if you like. And it saves you a little bit of time, because you can schedule a number of them in advance, and then you're not having to worry that nobody's heard from you this week if you get busy. It's important to sort of be able to get in touch with a lot of people, sort of keep yourself known and out there all the time. So Hootsuite can be really helpful in that respect, because you know, if you have a couple of busy days and aren't able to post, it's handy to have even some generic posts scheduled in, and then you can add live ones as and when you're working on the project. It's free to use, and the other good thing about it is that you can link all of your social media accounts, so you can do your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter and your LinkedIn all at the same time, and it will post it out onto the different channels. So a good thing to have a look into if you find that wanted to post to social media, but you maybe haven't got time to be doing it on 4 different platforms every single day. Next slide, please. Paid social media posts is another way of promoting your organisation. So we've talked about what we call organic posts, which is where you're posting yourself. It's going out to the people that follow you. It may be shared by them, and then you may gather more followers. But if you undertake some paid social media, which basically means putting a little bit of budget behind it, it's almost like sponsoring your posts, and you can choose where you want this to go out to. People who have certain interests, people of a certain age, people who live in your area. There's different demographics that you can choose from. And that's what's happening when, if you've ever been on Facebook and something just pops up that you don't follow, or you're not friends with it, or anything like that, it'll just pop up because they're thinking that might be something that you're interested in. And quite a lot of the time, that's a paid social media post. So that's another thing that you could look into to share information about your project. Next slide, please. So photography, last but not least, but quite important, top tips for the best photographs. So high quality photos are really important, and to be honest, most of the time now your phone is of a really good quality, and that's really easy because it means that a lot of the time you can post to your social media from your phone. Your photographs are there ready to go. If you're including people in your photos, make sure you've got their permission to share their image. With under 16s, it's particularly important to get consent from parents. So we have a standard little form for parents to sign on, to give consent for their child's image to be used on social media and stuff. So if that's helpful for anyone, we can share that with Lewis so that that can be sent out to you if needed. The larger the file size, the better the quality sort of the image. So if you're wanting to put that or send it to us for inclusion on website or in reports or that sort of thing, if you're able to send it of a high res form and in a format that's sort of a JPEG or a PNG, that's always good. If any of this is gobbledygook, then that's fine. Just get in touch with us and we can give you some further information. Next slide, please. So the actual pictures that you're taking, then here's some ways of making sure that they are best used. And on this slide, I've put sort of a good photo and a not so good photo, which will give you an idea of the type of thing that you're wanting to be doing. Make sure they're not too bright. Natural daylight is best, but if you need to use the flash, then use the flash. Focus on the object that you're taking a photo of, and generally keep them in the middle of the shot unless it's they're pointing at something or something along those lines. And make sure that there's sort of something going on in those photos. If everybody's all just in a line, it's not as exciting. If it looks like they're doing something, then they sort of gain more traction with people who are scrolling through their social media. And obviously it's important that they're not blurry, that they're in focus and everything. So the top photo there, you can see the Metro Mayor is out with the wildflowers and some of the kids from the local primary school, and it was sort of it was a fun photo to sort of say, look at this, the children had sown all the wildflower seeds themselves, and this was later on in the project. So I think the photographer was actually down on the floor taking this photograph, looking up. So sometimes it's good to get into different positions to get different angles of things that you're taking, and that can be a good way of trying to create some interesting content. The bottom picture is one that I think I took actually when we were at the farm at one of the high schools in Wirral, and we were meeting the alpacas. And this isn't as good because there's a couple of people, including the mayor, got his back to us. So while it was sort of a good record of us being there, it wasn't one that I would use on social media because it's not really sort of very exciting. Everybody's in the middle of the shot. We haven't chopped any heads off or anything like that, but no one's looking at the camera. No one's sort of identifying anything, or it's not very exciting. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of what would be classed as a decent social media pic and one that's not so good. Next slide, please. So the other thing you might want to do is track how well you're doing. So analytics is the way to do this. I won't go into too much detail on it, but you are able to see the level of engagement that you're having with your followers, how many people that are seeing your posts, and what kind of reach you're having, which is one of those jargony words for being able to see how many people are engaging with you. So on the various pages of Facebook or Twitter, you'll find something that says analytics or insights, and that's where you would go into to find out where those details are, and they'll provide them in sort of, you can provide reports to see how well you're doing as well. Next slide, please. So this gives you another idea of sort of how many tweets you've done, the impressions your tweets have had, the mentions that you've had, how many followers that you've had. So this is the sort of information that you can use as evidence of social media activity and how you're measuring your performance on social media. I suppose depending on your organisation and what you're wanting to use this for, this could be really helpful, or it might be something that you're not really looking at. But we thought if we just ran through it, at least you sort of have an idea that it was there and what you could use it for. Okay, next slide, please. So that's it from me. I'm sure you're absolutely tired of listening to my voice. I'm going to pass back to Lewis now, and if we've got any exciting questions for any of us we can help with.
Thank you very much, Claire. That's a great presentation. Really interesting, I think, as well. I think hopefully the audience learned a few things there from you. We've only got one question, which I'll get to now. But if you do have any questions, you can put them in the Q&A on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will hopefully get through them all for the hour. So firstly, we've got a question from Jack and Anne-Marie from Plastic Tactics saying, thanks for the update. We haven't had our grant from the agreement yet. Is this something we can contact by phone? So I was just in the middle of typing a response to you. So don't panic if this goes to everybody as well. Don't panic if you haven't had your grant funding agreement yet. They are starting to be sent out. Our legal team are working their way down the list. They do take a while because they obviously have to be bespoke for each applicant. So hopefully, I think they're quite near to the bottom of the list. So hopefully you'll have yours in a matter of days. So if there's the email address as well, the CEF at Liverpool City Region, which you should have already. I'll type that in the chat now. If you do have any further questions as well, but yes, hopefully that should be within a few days. Don't panic if you haven't had yours yet. So Aidan's done it for me, thank you. So yes, any other questions as well, put them in the chat. We'll hang on for a few minutes in case anyone's typing away. Yeah, and if you do have any other questions about anything at all, just put our email address in, which you should have. So if you send on there, the whole team has access to the inbox and should get back to you quite quickly. And on another note, when I'm waiting for questions, we've sent out a new supplier form. If you aren't already haven't already worked with this before, you don't have a new supplier form, that'll be sent out. So if you get that back to us as soon as possible with I think a bank statement says on the form, send that as well. That'd be great because that'll help you get your money paid to you sooner when you complete your grant funding agreements. So I don't think we have any more questions. So yes, I guess we'll call it there. So we've got the email address if you do think of anything. So thank you very much for coming to the webinar today. Hope you find it interesting, and good luck with your projects. Thank you.